Hey y'all, this is David Ducker coming back at you, and today I'm going to be doing a video about what to look for in a player. I just did a video about what to look for in a gaming group. When you're coming in as a player, this will be the opposite. When you're a game master or a referee, as I like to call it, what do you look for in somebody new coming into your group? So first of all, whenever you meet up with this person, make their acquaintance, you want to sit down and talk to them and set some expectations for the game. Figure out what kind of game they're looking for and explain to them what kind of game you're looking for. And usually, the vast majority of cases, there's enough overlap that you know you'll be just fine. You know, personally, I tell everyone when they're coming in, our game is very character driven. It's story based. It's a sandbox environment. You know, not an empty sandbox like some people like, oh, I have a sandbox, but there's just nothing there. You can go anywhere and do anything, but there's nowhere to go and nothing to do. We don't run like that. We have a nice full sandbox of really fun toys for everybody to play with. So I tell them that it's sandbox, and because it's sandbox, you have to provide the momentum and drive the story somewhere, anywhere you want, but you have to drive it, or somebody in the party does. And also because it's so story-based and character-based, you need to put time into your character, do his backstory, because NPCs will ask you about it. They'll ask you where you're from, who your parents were, where you learned the skills that you have. They'll ask you about what religion do you follow, what pantheon of gods or philosophy perhaps. So you need to do a little bit more work up front because that kind of stuff will come into play. You know, and again, because it's so story-based, character-based, combat doesn't come up that often. Maybe every other session, so every 6 to 8 hours, 10 hours, every 6 to 10 hours there will be probably one combat encounter of some sort. But I tell them, I like to make my combat very lethal, very dangerous. So if you just come in trying to fight everyone, you're going to be in a world of hurt. And if you come in and think you can optimize your build and plow through the combats and make them less lethal, that's not going to work out either. Because I'm just going to level up all the NPCs until combat's as dangerous as I want it. Which is fairly dangerous. So I set these expectations, it's high story, high character, low combat, dangerous combat. Your build doesn't matter. Your character does matter a lot. So if they come in and they're looking to optimize their build, to move around minis, to dungeon crawl, to hack and slash, I tell them like, none of that is going to be useful for you in my game. I know, 3 or 4 other game masters that would love to have you, but not in my game. That's not going to work. If you're willing to try to get some roleplay on, I'll take you. Because even if you suck, as long as you're trying, I'm cool with that. You'll improve. You'll learn something. You'll be better than an empty seat at my table. Because I like to have as many players as I can in each game, 6 players, as many as I can run, and still give everybody some spotlight. So that's the first thing. Set all these expectations up. And then the second thing, once they're in the game, of course you give them their cool intro scene. Everyone should have a cool intro. Make their character look cool right off the bat. Put them over. And of course follow all their plot hooks as a GM. Weave it into your world. Make them feel a part of it. So not only will they over time mesh with what you've written, but what they've written will be meshed into what you've written. And it's this great collaborative experience. I love that. because it's less work for me if the players are writing something, especially since there's 6 players and there's only one of me as a GM. So yeah, get them running and do some periodic evaluations. You know, I'm a little bit obsessive compulsive in that I analyze and quantify as all the time. I make lists of things that no one needs to make lists of. But the way I grade my players is in 4 key areas. That's their writing, which is their backstory, the plot hooks they provided me, and the goals they've provided me before the game starts. My player Aaron and my other player Rick are both excellent at writing. You know, 5 out of 5 on both counts. Aaron gave me a whole, you know, homeland and how his homeland works and all the plot hooks with his homeland. Rick tends to go into deep biographical detail on his characters, and those are great. So good players should be have some writing skill. Then you've got your acting or role-playing ability. That's your ability to speak with the voice of your character, say what they would say, and do what they would do. Form this personality that's separate from your own and stick with it. My player Josh Pullman, he is excellent at this. So is Patrick, who I've only gamed with 4 or 5 times, but right off the bat I can say, you know, he's 5 out of 5. Josh Pullman's 5 out of 5 in role-playing ability. They're excellent. Then you've got artistry, which is your ability to describe things, what your character looks like, and also what his actions look like. Not just I swing my sword, but how does he swing it? Is it overhead? Is it a horizontal cut? Is it a thrust? Does he feint one way and then switch another way? You know? And I can think of my player Tyson, excellent at this, probably 4 out of 5. He was playing a ranger in our Legends of the Seven Sands game, and his ranger had a giant eagle mount, and they do awesome double team moves, tag team maneuvers. You know, one hits the bad guy low, one hits him high, and he's just destroyed. Or one holds him, the other hits him. You know, or Tyson grabs the guy by the legs and picks him up in the air, and then the eagle flies by and it snatches his head and just snaps his head and twists his head off, its talons. You know, describing how you do everything adds so much flavor and entertainment value to the game, to the other players. It's great. And I always hand that over to my players too, where they'll roll their to hit and or damage depending on the system, and you know, I'll mark it down like, oh, okay, he damaged the guy, but he didn't drop him. Like, please describe your attack. And that's what I say. I don't tell them how many hit points the guy lost. I don't tell them. I will tell them how the guy's looking, like how mangled he looks. But I'll hand it off to them. Okay, you hit. Describe how you hit. You did damage to him. Describe how you did the damage. You know, and whether that's a flurry of blows or whether that's one enormous power move or whatever it is. You know, maybe you just hurt his feelings, but that can demoralize him enough for you to finish him off later. And also, when the character, the NPC drops, I'll tell them, okay, you hit him and you dropped him, you know, and I'll let them describe how they took care of him, how either they killed them, they knock him out, capture him, whatever the player wants. I'll let them describe that. If the bad guy's at 0 hit points, the player can do whatever he wants with the guy. So, it might be he's down at 0 and it's like, oh, okay, I just beat him down, and when he's stunned there, I just kick him in the face, we can interrogate him later. Or maybe the player will come around and say, oh, okay, I drop him? Yeah, that's right. I swing in, he goes to raise his shield, and before his shield gets all the way up, my axe comes right in his nugget, and I perforate his brain and air condition his cerebellum. However the player wants to describe their action. I'm very happy to give that to them. Because as a GM, while they're doing that, I can check my notes, I can take a break, I can have a sip of soda, whatever. So that's the third area. The fourth area I grade role players in is their storytelling ability. That's taking the existing storylines, following them, pushing the pace, having those great twists in the stories. When you come to this branching path, you know, do you ally with the pirates or do you murder the pirates? Because the penalty for piracy is death. What do you do? You know, and a storyteller will pick a path and he'll follow it. He'll say, "Oh, of course we hang the pirates. You know, we're of the Myrmidian order, and we don't front with piracy." So he would tell that story, you know, or he would, you know, possibly evolve his character a little too. You know, I played a character who's a high priest of Aphrodite, a high elf, high priest, styled himself a paladin, but he was great against, you know, goons, sword fight. He had a great short sword and bashing shield style of combat, and against any goons he was great. Bandits, I think we fought some knights. So humanoid foes are no problem. Even beasts, he was okay. We fought a drake, or like a dragon with no wings, basically. And we fought a chimera. He was great. He had that whole knightly thing, slaying beasts, slaying dragons. He loved that. But we encountered giant spiders. He was not cool with that. He didn't want no part of giant spiders. That's an opponent that's not humanoid. He can't use any of his fighting techniques against them, and it's not like a solid bruiser that he can feel good about fighting. It's just some creepy, crawly, skittling, chittering vermin, and he was not having any of it. He got stuck in the web. He started panic attack, freaking out. So I developed a fear of spiders into that character. So he got arachnophobia. You know, even we got to the inn and he's checking his room for spiders, and he had to get the other paladin in the group to come in and kill a spider that he found in his room because he was terrified of it. So, you know, you can tell the story outside of yourself by pushing the pace, following threads through the world. You can also tell a story inside of your character too. And that has some overlap with your role playing, but I think it is a slightly different skill set. Definitely overlaps though. So these 4 areas, you want to look for strengths and weaknesses for each of your players in each of these areas, and you know, it's not like you give them a report card or come down harshly on them or grade them, but it's just good to be aware of that. And for me, it helps me assess who I'm going to keep and who I'm going to cut out of the game. So if someone is, you know, average in all 4 areas, they're an average player, usually. So I don't see a lot of benefit in keeping an average player in my game. It's better than no player. It's better than an empty seat. But I always try to make sure everybody's actually good or great. So I won't cut them, but I won't invite them back for the next campaign if they're just average, you know. So, you know, we had our one guy, Mike Chartrand, and he was pretty right down the line. You know, he was average role-playing ability, average writing ability, average storytelling ability, average descriptions. Right down the line, super average. He was fine in the game, but I didn't feel a big need to invite him back. I might in the future, just not back-to-back campaigns with him. Whereas compare someone like Aaron. Aaron, great writing ability. You know, his role-playing ability is pretty strong. Now his storytelling ability is actually like detrimental. You know, I joke Aaron is we call him Kenderson, the eternal Kender. So his storytelling ability like actively hinders the rest of the plot. He does weird things for unknown reasons. He's chaotic neutral. All his characters are chaotic neutral. He just does stuff. He doesn't know why he did it, and that really can hurt your overall narrative. His descriptions are also just slightly below average. So Aaron is a great example because you have to ask yourself, you know, okay, this is what he brings, this is what he takes away. Which campaign style and which campaign setting is he best for me to bring him into? You know, so you know, I really enjoy Aaron on a lot of fronts. You know, his writing, his role playing can be quite good, and he's off the wall, which is always good. Up until it starts to be so off the wall that it's a detriment to the story. But at least something is happening, right? You might not know why it's happening, but at least something's happening. So you get some action in there. Because Aaron really likes to push the action and push the pace. It's just the directions he pushes in are very odd. So you have to ask yourself, you know, do I want him in this campaign? Do I want him in that campaign? Do I want him with these players or with those players to build your roster and build your A team at your table? So for Aaron, he was in Legends of the Seven Sands. He was fine. I did not invite him back for Return of the Runefangs, but again, I'll probably invite him back for the next campaign after this one. So I'd say make you know, to come back to our original point, how do you choose players when you're the GM? You know, first of all, try to pre-screen them as best you can. You can't really judge someone until you've gamed with them, though. So pre-screen them, bring them in, do an honest assessment of their skill set, and then decide, you know, if they're worth it. If they add entertainment value, keep them. If they're neutral, probably keep them anyways, just until the campaign ends. Now, if they're an active detriment, I give everybody 4 sessions, and if you're not fitting in, if your playstyle's disruptive, if you're detracting from the fun of others, at the end of that 4th session, you know, I'll tell you you're not invited back. You know, this game is not for you. I know a lot of other GMs be happy to have you, but I'm not interested in you coming back to my game. And I'm the kind of guy who believes that the players in the gym are equal participants. So it's not like as a GM I'm lording over him and saying, you know, as a GM I'm solely in charge of screening the players. But I am that kind of guy who will say, okay, as a group, everyone, either he goes or I go. And usually they're the ones who are going to go because I'm a good player. I push the pace. I bring things to the table to add entertainment value. I work hard. It hasn't happened often. I think at one point I did get really mad at Aaron. I said that. I was like, okay, he goes or I go, because he was driving me nuts. And again, it's not that, you know, he is that bad or anything. It's first of all, we had a clash of styles, but more importantly, we were in the same game with each other for too long. We played like for 2 years together, you know, or 3 years. And I can handle Aaron for a year gaming with him, but then I need some time off, you know. And I hadn't had that. I got frustrated with him. I said, okay, everybody, he goes or I go, you know, because I'm sick of it. And everybody kind of looked at me and said, well, we'd rather have you in the game than Aaron. Ultimately, we were able to smooth it out in that case, kind of. Rick played a big part of being a mediator, and he went to Aaron and said, let's try to change your style. And then he went to me and he said, let's give Aaron another chance. So we did keep him in for the rest of the campaign. That campaign, did get cut short, though, dramatically shortened. Not solely because of his continued participation, but it was definitely one of the reasons. I'm not trying to badmouth the guy. It's just we had a clash, that's all. You can have two, I've seen this a lot, where you have two players, they're both very good, both add a lot to the game, and they don't get along. Either they clash in the game, and their styles are just incompatible, or they clash out of the game and they just hate each other. Now, I love Aaron. Aaron's a great guy. It's just in the game our styles clashed. And neither did Aaron. We never let that carry to out of game stuff, unlike I've seen that happen before recently. But back on topic. Now that I'm rambling, I'm sorry I'm rambling so long. But back on topic, you got to do the honest assessment of the player, decide if they're worth keeping or not, give them a fair shake. So that's how I recommend you screen your players out. And if you have anything to add to this, put it in the comments below. And I think I'm going to be signing off now. So y'all have yourselves a real good day out in YouTube land. And I'll be seeing you again real soon.